Today, we're going to step inside a 19th century Missouri prison cell to uncover a really powerful personal story. It's about a man who, at the absolute end of his rope, asks one single question and gets an answer that changes absolutely everything for him.
So, this is how Parley P. Pratt described his time in Missouri prison back in 1838. And look, these aren't just dramatic words for the sake of it. This gives us a window into his soul, into a state of just complete and utter despair. I mean, can you imagine feeling that being trapped is literally worse than dying 10,000 times over? That's where his head was at.
All right, so how did he even get here? Well, after a ton of conflict, a bunch of church leaders, including Pratt, they all get arrested. And they're split into two groups. One group, which included Joseph Smith, gets sent to a place called Liberty Jail. Pratt's group, they're sent to Richmond.
And this is where their stories just diverge, big time. The men at Liberty Jail, they actually managed to escape after about 6 months and make it to safety in Illinois with their families. But Pratt and his buddies, they were left behind in Richmond. They were totally isolated, surrounded by people who were openly telling them, "You are never getting out of here alive."
You know, as if being abandoned and threatened every single day wasn't bad enough, their situation was about to get so much worse. And the most painful part? The blow didn't come from their enemies. It came from one of their own.
So, a fellow prisoner, a guy named Luman Gibbs, he decides he's going to save his own skin by turning on his friends. He renounces his faith, and to prove he's really switched sides, he starts making up stories. He's telling the guards all these lies about escape plans that didn't even exist. And this, of course, just leads to harsher treatment and pretty much slams the door shut on any real hope of ever getting out.
So here's Pratt, caught in this absolute nightmare of being isolated and now betrayed. He's at his breaking point. He later wrote that he was, quote, halfway between hope and despair. He does the only thing he has left to do. He starts fasting and praying with this incredible, all-consuming intensity.
And this wasn't just some casual, everyday prayer. We're talking for days. His entire focus, his entire being was wrapped up in this single burning question. He felt like if God ever talks to people, if that's even a thing, then this is the moment. This is when I need to know. The stakes, in his mind, just couldn't have been higher.
But here's what's so fascinating. It's what he wasn't asking. He wasn't praying, "How long do I have to put up with this?" Or, "Hey, what's the escape plan?" Nope. His focus was on something way more fundamental.
And there it is. This was the one question. Not how, but if. Will I ever be free again? Will I ever see my wife and kids again? Will I ever get to preach again like I used to? It's such a profound plea, not for a plan, but just for the possibility of a future.
And then, one night, after days of this intense focus, the answer came. Pratt's lying there on his bed. The other prisoners, the guards, they're all still awake nearby. But in his little corner of the jail is quiet. And he's just waiting.
And then something shifts. He describes this feeling of being completely carried away, where the stone walls and the cold floor of the prison just fade into the background. A wave of peace and calm, the total opposite of his day-to-day reality, just washes over him.
In this spiritual state, a person appears before him. He sees a face just filled with compassion and love. And when this person speaks, he knows the voice instantly. It was his wife, Thankful, who had actually passed away almost 2 years earlier.
Pratt knew, right away, why she was there. She was there to answer the question that had taken over his entire life. So without any hesitation, he asked her directly, repeating that same desperate plea.
The answer she gave him wasn't a long, drawn-out explanation. It wasn't a detailed roadmap. It was just one single, powerful word. Yes. And in that one syllable, you can just imagine the entire weight of everything he'd been carrying was just lifted.
So that answer was everything he had prayed for. But you know how we are, right? We're human. Once he had that confirmation, that spark of hope, he immediately wanted more. He wanted the details.
So he pushes a little. He asks, "Can you tell me how or by what means or when I'll escape?" And her reply was just as direct as her first one, but this time it was a very gentle no. "That thing is not made known to me yet." And he got it. He understood instantly. In his prayer, he had sort of made a deal, right? He just wanted an answer to that one question, and he got it. He knew right then that he had to be okay with that, and that the how and the when, well, those weren't for him to know just yet.
And with that, his wife's spirit was gone. Pratt was suddenly aware of his surroundings again. The cold, the dark, the reality of the prison cell. Physically, nothing had changed, but internally, everything had changed.
He now had this unshakable promise that freedom was in his future.
And this whole story, it really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? When you're facing impossible odds, when all the logic and all the evidence is screaming that there's no way out, where does that hope come from? That thing that allows us to just keep going? It's a powerful question. Thanks for joining us.